One of the joys of working with glass is that it breaks, and I had a mishap with this, which is more annoying than it might otherwise be because it's really hard to get this glass. And as it was, I'd specially ordered some from Reading Stained Glass. So then I had to order some more, which of course delays the job, which is not great. So yeah, I've just got to do what I can basically, and get the job done. And it just can't be helped. Sometimes it's just the way it is. So yes, welcome to the joys of working with glass. But what was quite interesting was that it broke when I was scraping off this very, very tough outside cement. It's not normally as tough as this. For the rest of the window, I actually, for the first time, used this tool, which I was really worried about, but it turned out to be the safer option. So there it is. You learn, you live and learn. This is my old cement that I've kept in an airtight container, and it's formed a skin. So I'm going to take that skin off, and I'm going to just see if I can revive it, because it's still got some movement in it. It's stiff, but see it moving? So that's what I'm going to experiment with now. So, as you know, if you've watched my video about making cement, the liquid is, oh God, boiled linseed oil and white spirit. These are so bad, these lids, they get really stuck up. Sometimes I have to cut them off. Anyway, a bit of this and a bit of that, and we'll give it a stir and see if it comes back to life, and if it doesn't, we'll make a fresh batch. What I need is a knife. I don't have a knife. Very sad. I'll try the other end of this spoon. Right. Just trying to cut it through to incorporate the new liquid. And actually, I think once I get this on the window and start scrubbing, that will help incorporate it as well. Whew, you need muscles. Now, some people like their cement this consistency. I probably like it a little bit runnier, just a tiny bit. So I just put a bit of white spirit in there. Now I'll put a bit more linseed oil in. So you can see, I hope, that is coming back to life. Okay, here goes. I'm going to be installing this window today, and I'm going to be putting a saddle bar in. So I need to attach ties to the inside of the window. So I'm going to show you how to do that now with one pair of hands. Because when I first tried to do this years ago, I couldn't work out how to do it without an extra pair of hands. So I'm going to show you how I do it. So this is an old window, and I won't be able to solder very easily to this old lead without getting it back to some nice bright lead. So I'll do that now. Plug in soldering iron. Flux. This is copper wire, 1.6 millimeters. It says 16 SWG bare copper wire from Reading stained glass, and it cost £9 plus VAT. So you want a generous amount because you're going to trim it later. I never put these on until I finished polishing up my window because they would make a sort of bump on this side of the panel, and so when I have the panel lying the other way up, it might just be a place where, you know, the window's not flat and it's, I don't know, I just don't like the idea. So if at all possible, I don't polish a window with any bumps on the underneath. So having cut my copper, I put a bit of flux on the area to be soldered. You want as far as possible for it to be lying flat against the area you're going to solder. It's got wiggle. Okay, I think this is hot enough now. So what I do is I keep it on the top of the wire long enough for the heat to travel through the wire and onto the surface below. The other way you can do it is you can put a lump of lead, you can put a lump of solder on your window, like that. This doesn't want to, yeah, it's not very nice. Let's turn it right up. You don't really want that peak. It's a sign that the solder's not flowing if you've got a peak, like that. Put a bit of flux. Never mind. So, having put, no, I don't like that peak. Having put a lump of solder there, you can then just heat up the wire, and it ought to melt into the lump of solder once the solder then reheats. This takes a minute. I'm going to put a bit extra on top of this one because I never really did get enough onto the window. But you can see I'm leaving it on the window for quite a long time. You don't want to touch the wire with your fingers while you're doing this because the wire gets really hot. Copper's a great conductor of heat, so I can feel that this wire hasn't gone into the solder yet because it hasn't moved. So you put the wire on top of the lump of solder and then you heat up the wire and you should feel it sink into the solder at some point, and this hasn't. Now it's going, I can feel it going now. It's definitely always harder to do on old lead. Just a bit of patience. Now I'm going to just put it on from the top. Oh no. See, if you do try and put it on from the top, you do find that the copper can just roll about under your soldering iron. So that's why it's probably easiest to put a lump of solder on your window first, lay your copper wire on top, then heat up your copper wire until it's hot enough to melt the solder underneath. Can feel it going. There we are. So that's what you're aiming for. This one isn't very nice. I'm going to put a bit more on here. I'm going to put a bit more on here. There. Right, then you let them cool off a bit. And very importantly, you give them a good tug with a pair of pliers, and that way you know that they're safe, that they're stuck fast. So that's got a bit of a wiggle. I don't like that. That's okay. That's okay. And that's okay. This one, maybe not so much. Yeah, it's going to come off. Can you see that? So I'm going to take this off and I'm going to scarify this surface again, because that's basically what's happened. It hasn't adhered nicely to the lead underneath, probably because the lead's so old and dirty. Right, we'll give that another go now. There's already a lump of solder on here, so all I need to do is heat it up again. And if there's a hot surface with flux on it, this is tallow, which acts as a form of flux. So what it does is it stops the surface of the metal oxidizing when it heats up. Oxidizing means getting dirty and becoming a surface that solder won't flow onto. And in our industry, we use tallow to do that. They use something a bit different in the electronics industry. Right. Okay. So I will let that cool down a bit, and then I'll give it another tug. that's fine now. So that's a really important little test. And that's how you solder on your tags with one pair of hands.